Hi, sorry, I wanted to be where it was air conditioned.
Yes, don't blame you.
So, Chairman Keel, Vice Chairman Aello, and the rest of the committee, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I'm honored to talk to you about House Bill 5345, which I am in favor of and would prohibit concealed carry in Rhode Island K-12 schools with an exemption for peace officers. I want to mostly focus my testimony on some of the questions that came up because they were pretty good questions and, they're worth answering. Excuse me. I've been, for the past 2 years, working with the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence to get school committees to sign resolutions in favor of this bill. So far this year we have 21. And as I've gone around the state, many people are absolutely shocked that concealed carry is permitted in Rhode Island schools. And, I think that given that we're one of only 8 states in the country that does it, there's shock is understandable. So we are really an outlier in that respect compared to the rest of the country. I know other people will talk about the polling later. I did want to point out there was just a article published in the American Journal of Public Health, and those researchers found nationally that support for carrying in schools was lower than any other venue at 19%. Schools are the last place Americans want guns. This legislation's been endorsed by the Rhode Island Association of School Principals, the Association of School Committees, Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, as well as the Police Chiefs Association. So one thing I want to kind of clear up, because I think there's some misconceptions about this bill. First of all, we know that if someone wants to go into a school and shoot it up, that they're not going to abide by the law and say, oh, I can't bring the gun into school. We understand that. It's also not about the concealed carry holders in Rhode Island. It's not that we think that they're dangerous and they're going to suddenly go crazy and create a mass shooting in school. It's about minimizing risk and liability. And just as Rep. Regenberg spoke about needing to balance those things, this is the same thing. And what we maintain is that the risk of accidental or intentional shootings outweighs the unlikely benefit that someone is going to defend a school from a mass shooting. And
so you have examples of there being a problem?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Well, you said there's risk, right? Everybody in this room knows that school shootings happen. They happen with an alarming frequency in this country. Thankfully, they haven't happened in this state. We know that happens. Where are the accidental discharges, the stolen guns?
In Utah, 2014, a teacher with a concealed carry permit who brought the gun in with the admirable intention of protecting her students shot herself in the leg in a bathroom. She was very seriously injured. Right here in Rhode Island, we had a concealed carry permit holder bring a gun to work at Rhode Island College. They left the gun in a dormitory bathroom. It was later recovered from a from a garbage can. So that's the kind of thing that we don't want to see happen. I understand the claim that nothing bad has ever happened because of this law, so why fix it?
Well, I don't think it's nothing bad's ever happened. So there's 2 examples. That's great. That's better than you did last year. You know, I can think, I can.
testify last year, I'm sorry.
Well, it's better than your group did last year. I can remember an example. I don't know where it was. It wasn't a school. It was a church where these mass shootings would happen. The pastor said to a trusted parishioner, I can't remember, she had some kind of military or perhaps police background. He said to her, I'm very concerned that this happened at our church. If it happens, it's just going to be a killing spree. Would you please bring your weapon to church? A mad person did come in. She confronted him and killed him. I think maybe a couple people were killed, but it wasn't 25. So you've got a gun in a trash can and a teacher who shot herself in the leg in Utah. And I can point to at least 10 lives being saved in that church. I'm sure there are other examples. So this is the position of the people that have a contrary position to yours. But please continue.
Yes, I understand that. And I will touch on that more. There's another example. In 2013, a Colorado school employee shot a student in the leg accidentally. Again, that's a perfectly fair point that you're making. And again, it's about balancing risks. Now, that incident's horrible. Obviously, none of us want to see mass shootings in schools. No one on either side of the debate, certainly. But thankfully, mass shootings in schools are rare events. Accidents with guns happen every day.
So should we eliminate guns everywhere?
No, but
isn't that the logical conclusion? Isn't that the logical conclusion of the thought process? Guns in schools could lead to accidents. Therefore, guns anywhere could lead to accidents. So isn't the next step ban them everywhere?
I would not say so.
Okay.
I think that there are certain areas that are very sensitive that we want to keep guns out of, and schools are really at the top of that list. That doesn't mean that we're going to take guns away everywhere, which we couldn't do even if we wanted to, which we don't, because of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, however, does not guarantee a right to bring weapons into schools.
I'm not suggesting it does. It's a question of where to, risk and safety and what's in everybody's best interest. And I think there's just disagreement about that. But go ahead.
Well, I'm sure we both have everyone's best interests at heart.
I am certain that is the case.
It's absolutely correct that we've averted any kind of tragedy or accident in the schools. And the law has been on the books for quite a while. But the climate has changed. And we now have the NRA. I think it was in 1999, Wayne LaPierre said, "We believe absolutely in gun-free, zero-tolerance, safe schools." And he would also have made an exception for law enforcement. So that's our position today. But, one of the problems here is we really don't know how many people are carrying in schools, and we have no way to know. It could be every teacher at my son's school. It might be one.
Well, unless all the teachers in your son's schools are concealed carry permit holders, which I highly doubt, it's not the case. Under this law, hang on. And second of all, if your student is at a school where every teacher has a concealed carry permit, please let me know where that is. I'm sure there are many of my constituents that would like to send their kids to that school too, because it seems like a pretty safe place to me.
I can give you an example of that. When my son was in 6th grade, his language arts teacher told him that he kept a gun in his desk. Unfortunately, he's no longer teaching at Barrington Middle School, so that might not be on your list. But the effect on my son was terrible, being told that, which he had every right to do under current law. My son had nightmares. He woke up screaming. The nightmares were about this teacher tracking him down and trying to kill him. Sixth grade was really kind of a lost year in terms of his education. And yeah, it was very difficult for us as parents, certainly. So one of the components that's not really been addressed sufficiently is the effect of this on the learning environment.
Good point.
Let's see. I wanted to focus on, again, some of the questions that came up, and I think that one of them was this notion that the gun-free zones attract shooters, I believe, came up. There's some problems with that assumption. First of all, it assumes that these people are rational agents who think everything through very carefully, and we know that's not the case. In fact, what we see in most of these cases is that the person who does this has some emotional grievance with either that particular place or with a person who works there or something along those lines. And one thing I would refer you to on that is the 2013 FBI report that examined active shooter incidents between 2000 and 2013. The FBI found only one incident in which a active shooting was stopped by a civilian with a firearm. In contrast, 4 times armed guards stopped them, 2 times off-duty police, 21 times unarmed civilians. So the notion that just making sure that there's a gun in the school is going to make people perfectly safe is flawed. And we actually just had, and I appreciated hearing this point, the representative from the NRA, Mr. Goins, told us that under duress, that a person is likely to miss 75% of the time. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of somebody missing 75% of the time in a classroom full of children.
Yeah, but if they're shooting at someone that's shooting at children and there's no one shooting back, I agree. The notion of missing 3 out of 4 times is terribly scary. But what's the alternative? The alternative is someone shooting at kids with no one shooting back at them.
Well, and again...
That's not more scary to you? Is that more scary to you? Which would you prefer?
Okay, so you're what you're doing is just creating one particular scenario.
No. You raised the scenario. I didn't raise the scenario. You raised the scenario. Which would you prefer? An armed shooter intent on doing damage in a school, being unabated, or a concerned citizen shooting back at him and missing 3/4 of the time? Right. Which would you prefer?
It's a really great question. And
may I have an answer?
If you will give me a chance.
Go ahead.
So I definitely understand the temptation to think, especially in the wake of a horrible incident, if only someone had a gun, this could have all been prevented. I understand that. The problem with it is that you're taking a statistically improbable event, especially in comparison to the more prosaic things that are likely to happen with the gun in the school on a day-to-day basis. The accidents, the gun falling into the wrong hands, etc. So,
but you haven't answered my question. I'll give you as much time as you want, but I've yet to hear an answer to the question.
Again, so it's about balancing liabilities. What you're doing is you're just taking that gun and putting it there in that one instant.
I'm creating a very hypothetical situation, absolutely. And in my very hypothetical situation, which would you prefer? Someone intent on shooting students, A, or B, someone intent on shooting students and law-abiding citizens shooting back and missing 3/4 of the time? A or B? Which would you prefer?
It would depend on the training that they had, honestly. This has an exemption for peace officers, and they receive training in how to handle these situations. I don't want someone.
We can all agree that. We can all agree that C.
Of the time.
We can all agree that C, person attempting to shoot up a school and being responded to by a well-trained police officer is the best of the three options. But in my hypothetical, it's A or B. Which would you prefer?
I don't want that gun in the hand of a teacher or.
So you prefer A?
Like I would prefer that.
You would prefer A?
I would prefer that we leave this to the people who are trained to deal with these situations, because.
Why won't you answer my question?
I think I just did.
No, I don't think you have, sir. Just which would you prefer, A or B?
Please repeat the question, and I'll make sure to answer it clearly.
Scenario A is a mad person shooting children in a classroom, unabated. Scenario B is mad person shooting children in a classroom and being shot back at by a law-abiding citizen that happened to be carrying a concealed and missing 3/4 of the time. Which would you prefer?
So I would prefer that the gun not be in the school.
Okay, but that's, sir, you'd be better off just answering the question, because.
I would prefer that they not.
Oh, you prefer A. You prefer A.
I mean, I don't.
Is that what you said? You'd prefer A?
Not being clear. I don't.
No, you're not being clear. But you can be. I can't imagine it being any clearer. Just pick one, A or B. So which would you prefer?
I would prefer that the gun not be there.
Okay, so that's A.
Yes. Okay. And there are a variety of reasons for this. One is that, again, as was pointed out, 75% of those shots are going to miss. You're looking at the potential for more casualties as the result, because this person is handling the firearm under duress. And this is something that we've seen happen. I know that the idea of the good guy with the gun saving the day is a very attractive notion, but it doesn't always work out that way. In Las Vegas, there was an incident where a individual with a concealed carry permit tried to intervene in a shooting and was killed himself. In Houston, there was a carjacking, and a concealed carry permit holder attempted to intervene, and they ended up shooting the person who owned the car in the head, and not the people who were executing the carjacking. So I don't like the chances there, and I hope that
you are certainly entitled to that opinion.
We can disagree on that.
Absolutely,
but,
you're certainly entitled to that opinion.
But I hope I
just
answered your question.
You have. Thank you.
Again, just to come back to the point of balancing liabilities and risks, the reality is that defensive gun use is very rare in comparison to the entire picture of gun violence. So if you go to the gun violence archives, you'll see fewer than 2,000 defensive uses of guns in 2016. That's a really small proportion compared to the 30,000 people killed by gunfire every year. The other question that I wanted to address Actually, I think I already addressed the issue with the problem of thinking about gun-free zones as attracting shooters.
Yeah.
So this is an uncomfortable truth, and I don't like it. No one likes it. There's no way that we can absolutely guarantee the safety of students in schools, not with guns, and not by taking them out of the equation. But we do have a wealth of data that tells us that having a gun present increases the likelihood of injury or death. There are numerous studies at the national, state, and even household level that show that more firearms mean more homicides and suicides. One of the best looks at this is a 2014 meta-analysis of 16 studies, which found that having a gun in the home doubled the risk of homicide and tripled the risk of suicide. So, and again, I understand that's in the home, and we're not talking about schools in that situation, but the overall picture is really not that different whether the gun is in the school or in the home. I think the other thing that I would just like to point out is I've often heard opponents of the bill say that passing this law is an emotional decision. And this isn't based on emotion. It's based on a hard look at the facts. All the available evidence tells us that allowing civilians to carry in schools makes our students and teachers less safe, not more. And again, obviously, none of us want to see any kind of mass shooting. We're all very sincere in wanting to protect the students in our school, but putting guns in the hands of a teacher or other people in the schools it's the wrong answer to the problem of mass shootings. And frankly, this is the gun lobby's answer for everything. Is let's put more guns. Let's get more guns. And we're seeing in the United States and in Rhode Island that we're being pushed towards a cultural situation in which everyone is expected to carry a gun. And if Rhode Island isn't willing to draw the line at schools, which again is the place that